welcome back to the show. This is my last set of shows in the run up to Christmas. I'll probably be doing some shows from now till like mid-December. And what I'm planning to do basically in that time is I'll be doing some lists, because we're going towards the best of the decade, the best of the year. Not that I take those lists that seriously, but I think it's quite good fun to just show, to highlight what I saw that's good. It might be worth catching for anyone watching the videos. It's not like this is definitive or anything. So I'll be doing them over the next month, and I'll be doing like lists like the best sci-fi fantasy, the best action, you know, that kind of stuff. Not that many of them, because there's certain genres that I don't follow as closely to do a good best list of, but I'll be doing stuff like that. I'll also be doing individual videos, but it might be less. I usually have a 1, 2, 3, 4 series of videos every week. I'll probably randomise it a bit more, and I might do like 3 videos one week and a bit more the next week. I'm just trying to keep it interesting and fresh and try to make sure the videos are up. There's also the Ronan Nazrin videos that are coming up every 2 weeks at Ronan Nazrin site, or YouTube page. I recommend them. We've just finished Decalogue. We did a discussion on what cinema have Isaac done. I think that's a good video. Go look that up. I'll leave a link in the description. So there's a lot going on, but because I'm up to Christmas and it slows down a little bit, my videos might be less organised, like in when they come up. Just a warning. I just know it's probably going to happen, so I'm going to give you a warning now. Okay, I'm going to cover 2 films today in this video, which is the favourite and the new Centurions. One's a new film, one's an old film. One of the reasons I'm covering both of them, because neither of them will be a really in-depth review or anything, because I've just seen both of them over the last week and I'm still processing them, but I think they're worth talking about even from the perspective of just processing them. I think the favourite's definitely going to be within my best films of the year. It's not my favourite so far of the year, but it's quite close. It's a very good film. It's Yorgos Lanthimos is the director. I probably butchered the name, which I shouldn't have, because I've heard Saoirse Ronan talk about it so many times as director. Like, he loves talking about this guy. This is the first film I've seen of his. I've got a few of the films on Blu-ray or streaming to watch. I've started to watch The Lobster, and I've got 1 or 2 other films to watch. But that's the first time I've actually sat down and watched one of his films. Because he's had so much praise, I've been kind of avoiding it. Just out of pure spite. You know, it's just like, yeah, I know he's meant to be good, so I won't watch any of the films. Because, just out of pure dickishness. So I finally watched The Favourite, and it's terrific. It's really good. I can see why he's suddenly got the praise, and I now want to watch more of his films. It's a very good film. And best of all, it's a very good period film, which there aren't that many of. I mean, for me, period films are the mark of death for cinema, basically. So many of them are boring. The Merchant Ivory stuff I can't stand. Usually there's a code for, we will be very polite, we will speak a little bit, and we'll have all these good manners on the surface, and we'll have a story to suggest. There's some stuff going on below the surface that is very deep. And usually watching this thinking, these people aren't deep at all, these people are boring. They just think the problems are deep. And they usually the filmmakers haven't found a way to make those problems interesting. That's what I think of the typical British period drama, because Britain's the one that kind of throws this up as its contribution to the world. I much prefer usually when a director from another country comes in and messes with it. I mean, one of my favourite Kubrick films is Barry Lyndon. One of my favourite Scorsese films is Age of Innocence. You know, one of my favourite Richard Lester films is How I Won the War, which is about war rather than the period dressing, but it's all about the manners and the blumpishness and the craziness. So it's almost an extreme version of a period film, because it only goes back with 30 years from when it was made, but it's going back to a generation that was completely alien from the current generation, so it kind of was a period film. So those are the kind of films I like that look back to the past. And the favourite is in that. It's a foreign director who is looking at a landscape that he was not born into. So he doesn't have the preconceptions of what's good taste and what's bad taste. He just looks at it as a society and something he's going to tear apart. And it's just terrific. He's working with a script he did not write. Usually he writes his own script. This time it was written by some other people and it was given to him. But obviously it was shaped by him, by what he concentrates on from the frame, how he directs the actors. It basically is a film that could have been awful. This film could have been terrible if it was given to the wrong director, because the setup is Queen Anne. She's ill. She's got her favourite advisor, Lady Sarah, and she's the one, played by Rachel Weisz, who's the person who kind of runs the show. She's the one who talks for Queen Anne, who talks to Parliament for the Queen. Basically makes people come and go with the Queen, stops people from seeing the Queen if she doesn't want to see them, if they're in a different political party from her. So, you know, it's like manipulation of the country, using power by being the favourite of the Queen. Into this comes a character played by Emma Stone who her family's lost all their money, so she has to have a job as a chambermaid, but she soon gets in with the Queen to be a good chambermaid, and then the Queen realises she actually was born of more noble blood, and she starts to rise slowly by her giving good advice, but chumming the Queen. So it's a fight between these two women for control of the Queen's ear. And this could have been terrible. This could have been a terrible film. This could have been like the most awful thing, because if you're used to British cinema and how they take on class, they don't take on class. They take on class as if to say the upper classes have their problems, but they're much better than scummy lower class people. Those working class people, you know. It's a class thing based, and is unfair because usually it's made by people of the higher class who don't see the lower classes as three-dimensional characters. So that becomes a problem for period films, because it's always done to the bias of the rich. This comes from a guy who understands the class system, but he doesn't have any biases towards it. It's like, yeah, some of the lower classes people are scumbags, some of the richer people are scumbags, and there's other ones who are not so bad, and there's variants of everyone's good and bad in them, and he just sees them as people. So it becomes a period film about people and about the political situation, but he doesn't try and make it like a period film. It's like, these are the modes of the time. I mean, it could be a sci-fi movie, because it's most of the time that we don't understand. There's power plays that we can understand, but they believe in certain things that we don't. So it's a distance to what you see from what your life would be. So he treats it as strange and as human as anything else, you know. So because he's from a foreign land, he sees this and he just treats it as, this is what they believe, and that's it. He doesn't give it any special class. He doesn't say, oh, you should look up to this because this is amazing. No, he takes it as, this is what these people believe in, this is some of the stupid games they play, this is a bit dangerous, this is a bit not. I mean, some of this stuff, there's a lot of research done, and some of it reminds me of like the Richard Lester Musketeer films, where they had all these weird games that the rich played and the poor had to go along with because the rich were bored, and he plays around with that a lot. But also the power plays are treated seriously. This is not there's humour throughout the film, there's politics, but the things that might be taken seriously are taken seriously, but they're done with a light touch until they're not, until you realise how serious it is. So the Emma Stone character comes from the lower class, is unfortunately the lower class, so she has a very dark view of the rich. Like, she knows what they're like, she knows they're a lot of them are bumbling idiots who have more money than sense. She knows she can manipulate them. She knows how to manipulate men. She has no illusions about men. and they all fall for her and make fools of themselves. But she's still coming from the lower class because she's been forced down there, so she has a kind of very practical view of it. And Rachel Weisz's character has a similar thing. She's born richer and she knows the details, but she also knows she has to deal with the lower classes. She has to deal with them and what they want, so she doesn't have any illusions about them. She knows how she has to manipulate them to get what she wants. The Queen's been kind of cloistered off and doesn't meet the lower classes. She doesn't interact with them, doesn't understand them, and she's like become a child almost because all her whims are taken care of. And it ultimately becomes this basic story of what is affection, what is power, and how can like genuine affection between people survive a political landscape. And the answer to this one's pretty cynical. It really can't, because I mean there is like some lesbian relationships within this between Lady Sarah and the Queen Anne, and then between the Emma Stone character and Queen Anne, and that's like the power play to get the Queen on her side, because the Queen's lonely. She's never been able to bear a child. She's lost her husband. She's a very, very lonely figure. She's a very childish figure, and they are in some ways taking advantage of her. But the advantage that takes place is that, well, originally the Rachel Weisz character seems like she's really abusing the Queen's trust. As it goes on, you start to realise, no, she actually has affection for the Queen. She actually does love the Queen. She just try to protect her from herself, and try to protect her from the machinations of the Parliament. It doesn't mean she doesn't have her own biases that she takes advantage of sometimes. She's not perfect, but there is some affection there. The Emma Stone character is much more of a colder character, probably a bit more self-destructive, more selfish. Like, she plays clever for a very long time, and then when she's won, she shows her hand to be cruel. And that's what kind of causes her problems, is like, she ultimately doesn't care about people, and that becomes a problem. She can play it caring about people, but she doesn't actually. But it's not like, oh, she's evil. It's just like, no, she's been abused by a terrible system that's caused her to become this cynical and this like destruction of humanity, that this is the only choice she really had. She had to become. She was faced up against all these people, all these horrible situations, that this is the only real reaction that was sane. So you have these characters who are born of both their own will and their surroundings, and it's how do they react. And ultimately it's about basic survival. Like, how do you survive in this time that's full of threats and full of vengeance, and where nothing's ever stable. So it's a wonderful film. I highly recommend it. It won a lot of awards, deserved them. It was really good. It's actually one of those films that I'm amazed it won so many awards, because it seems almost too good to win the award. It seems like a higher class of film, so it's a film you'd expected not win the awards because it's a bit too brutal. But it's a terrific film and highly recommend it. The other film, the new Centurions, I'm going to talk about, is a film made in the 70s, and it's also about the brutalisation of a person through society. But it's about the police force. It's about the lower classes, the people who protect the rich rather than the people who benefit from, having money. These are people who don't have money, who don't get paid a great wage, who have to go and deal with the people who are trying to eke out a living by dealing with prostitutes, drug dealers, things like that. It stars Stacey Keach, the lead character. You've got George C. Scott as the main supporting character, which is this older cop who's getting a bit burnt out by the system. And it's about how these new cops come from training to become like seasoned professional policemen, and like who survives and who doesn't, and how every one of them comes in with baggage that they might not have thought of they had when they come into the job, but they actually do have it, and it does affect their fate. So it's written by Joseph Wambaugh, the actual original novel, and was adapted from his novel. And it's one of those really well made films. It's not as good as The Favourite though. In telling adaptation, some characters weren't developed as much as they should have been, or either that or some scenes were cut out before the film was released, because there's three characters you see who come from the police academy into the actual police force together, and they're basically Stacey Keach, Scott Wilson, and Eric Estrada. Now the Stacey Keach character gets a lot of focus. The other two don't. They get little moments, but they come and go within the narrative, and it actually makes the film lesser, because you feel that their stories had just as much weight, but you never saw it as much as you could have. And you also, there's a lot of time jumps just seeing these people go through their experiences over a few years as they learn how to become cops and go from being rookies to being the seasoned cops. And sometimes the time jumps aren't done as delicately and clearly as they could be. Sometimes you're jumping too much, and sometimes you have to catch up after another time jump. So there's things like that aren't as clear as it could have been in the direction. But that's the worst part of the film. The best part of the film is the day-to-day. You see them going through the streets, and it's shot. Richard Fleischer directed this, and he's done a lot of films, good and bad. I mean, he's gone from the heights of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to the lows of Conan the Destroyer. I mean, his career's all over the place. This one of his better films. And it takes the point of view of, we're going to shoot in the streets where this novel was based. We're going to try and make it as realistic as possible. The technical advisors, they had people go through the police academy for a few weeks. The three actors who played the rookies went through that academy for 2 weeks to learn the basics. Anyway, George C. Scott dominating the film. Now, George C. Scott is a terrific actor. I really like George C. Scott as an actor. He's always good. Even when he's hamming up, he's always really worth seeing. And he's great here. He has some great speeches, because he's telling Stacey Keach how to go through the streets and how to deal with problems in the streets. And it's obvious he loves the streets. He loves dealing with the people. He knows it's a tough job. He knows these people they're dealing with. Some of them are criminals. Some of them are just people trying to get by. He doesn't judge anyone. He says, don't prejudge anybody. Just take them who they are. And that's the kind of way he goes through life. But he has lots of philosophies on what's going on in society and how things are getting worse. And he's got all these great, terrific speeches. And George C. Scott has great speeches because he doesn't overdo it. He can deliver a speech, make it interesting, but he's also very much good at humanising a speech and talking and making it humane and making it feel like something someone would say. I mean, he's a wonderful actor. I mean, he really scores in this part because he really brings a realism to it. Makes you feel like you're getting a lecture, a street level lecture on how to survive in the streets. I mean, this is probably the best street level film or street level drama until like Homicide came out in the 90s, the TV show Homicide. This is kind of what came before. This is, you feel the influences of this film on Homicide, just the naturalism of the actors. So because it's not about what's the big score they have to stop. It's about the day to day. It's like dealing with prostitutes, dealing with delusional criminals, just dealing with their own problems, and the idea that cops are the half the problem because they have to bring their own baggage. And the Stacey Keach character brings a lot with baggage. Like, he was this kind of more intellectual guy who took the job just to make money while he was like going to law school, and it turns out he started enjoying this life more than he enjoyed law. So he did the switch over, and he goes through things. He gets shot. He has to learn how to survive and deal with being badly injured, and he gets adrenaline rushes by being in the street. He loves it the same way George C. Scott character loved it. Despite all the problems, they love it. And you see the other characters around him. That Scott Wilson starts to become more of a organizer. He's more of like a sergeant. He's going to be like one of the people who organises the police. He's much more of that kind of character. Even though there's a great scene earlier on with Scott Wilson actually shoots the wrong guy, it shows you how fragile the police can be because mistakes are made. You also see the Eric Strada character, he's coming up and he's a lot of issues with his own people and how they can become criminals sometimes. And he sometimes loses his temper about it, but he's slowly developing thicker skin about it as well. So it's a very human story. And it's a wonderful story. And there are a couple of things I'm not telling you about that are amazing. There's a couple of amazing scenes involving George C. Scott that you have to see to believe it. It's amazing. There's one particular scene that's amazing with him. One of his best scenes he's ever done. But I can't say anything. You just have to see it. But it's a wonderful film. Despite its flaws, it's wonderful. It's one of those films that are that actually transcend its flaws. The stuff that's good is so good that it really transcends what the flaws are in it. And the weird thing is, it has the exact same ending as another film that stars Stacey Keach and Scott Wilson. It pretty much ends on the same way as that film. It's like two films, the same actors. They're very different films. One's naturalistic, one's very stylised. It's like, it's the same ending. It's really weird. So I go see it. It's wonderful. You can catch it on Indicator. It's a terrific film, really worth seeing. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with another video. Okay, right, for now, bye.